Hi, this little video is about the people who are using the Evan 1965, that's the Latin course that I've got on YouTube. The stats that I'm going to show here are those that begin in August 2010. That's when I began to upload the Latin-only YouTube course, and more recently the Latin-English YouTube course. What's interesting is the breakdown in gender. As you can see, 75% of those people who are using the course, who are involved online, and I think this is a reasonable assumption in the study of Latin, are male, female about 25%. Although I have noticed that if you look at things more recently, for example, if I look at information that's more recent, the gender breakdown changes slightly. So since I've started to do the English Latin course, the percentage of females using the site has increased. But when I was doing the Latin only course, the percentage of males was much greater. I'm not sure why this is. The next thing we're going to look at is the breakdown of age of those people using the course. And here's the age breakdown. It's not what I expected. I expected to find quite a large number of school students logging on to use the course, but that's not really the case. The high school segment is quite small. It's smaller than the over 65 segment. The university segment, 18 to 24, also not that large. But once people leave formal education, 25 onwards, the number of people accessing the course increases, with the largest surge between 45 and 54. If we look at a gender breakdown, there's not much difference between the one and the other. So if I can find my mouse, because when I'm recording this my mouse becomes unfortunately rather invisible. There we have it. Male. Okay, as you can see, not much difference when we compare male and female as far as the breakdown goes from the age range. Of course the numbers of females are lower, but there isn't actually much difference between the two. This is the community graph showing where the site is accessed from and where there's most engagement from. Predictably, United States is quite high, and so is the United Kingdom. Surprisingly, Russia, and then a various amount in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, other parts of the world. Also, quite predictably, the vast amount of subscription comes from America, followed by the UK, and then Russia, Brazil, South Korea, Canada, Australia, Germany, Italy, Estonia. This is interesting when we compare it with the Latinum podcast, and I'll show you that now. Here are the visitor access stats for the Latinum audio podcast from May to February, so it's not quite a year. Once again, the United States, then the UK, after that Brazil, Canada, Australia, Germany, China. Of course, China doesn't have access to YouTube. Then Spain, France, Italy, and so on. It's quite interesting to look. New Zealand punches way above its weight in terms of its total population. Turkey, India, there's a growing number of people from India starting to access the site. India's had a very slow penetration, but it's starting to increase quite fast. some countries you would not think would have a very high number of people with interest in Latin. Hong Kong also punches above its weight in terms of its total population. Interestingly, the Vatican has 176 people visiting, and this is constant. The last year was about the same as well. So I find that intriguing, that there are so many people in the Vatican making use of the oral resources, both on the podcast and here on the Latinum, on the Latinum podcast, and also on the YouTube site as well. And then we get down to countries where there's quite low penetration, as expected, but some surprises. Of course, some of these countries are extremely small, like Guernsey, for example. So there we have it. If you look at the map that is produced, this is quite interesting as well. This is a visual representation of where in the world people are studying Latin. And I can change this map to make it more detailed. Far more places than you would expect, with of course the bulk being in Europe and the Americas. Quite significant concentrations in South America, and slowly an increase in Africa as internet access becomes more available, and quite significant concentrations in the Far East and Australia and New Zealand, with, as I said, an increasing penetration in India, and a steady growth across the former Soviet Union. And that's that for this little episode of where we stand in March 2011 with Latinum and my YouTube course. Voilà.